Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co, and we are back with another list ranking another publisher's games. This time is Chip Theory Games. It would be really awkward if it wasn't, given the games I put on the table over here. If you missed it, this is a series I do very infrequently, but I do it here and there. It shows up on the channel. It is a ranking of a publisher's games. Generally, the publishers I pick are, well, publishers that I've played most of their games, or at least enough that I think it's a meaningful video, as opposed to, hey, I played 5 of their 72 games, and let me go ahead and rank those games. That would be boring. I've done this several times. I've done it with Awakened Realms, I've done it with Stonemaier, I've done it with Burncycle Games and KTBG, I've done it with Simon. I don't know if I've done it with others, but more will come. In fact, in the comments down below, please let me know other publishers you'd like to see me do this with, because, well, your opinions matter as far as which one I do next. But for right now, we are here with Chip Theory Games. They only have 8 games to rank, at least as of right now. They probably have more coming, I imagine they should, but they have 8 games to rank as of right now, which is kind of on the lower end of how many I want to be able to do a meaningful video. Again, I think just 5 games isn't that interesting, but we do have 8, and so let's go ahead today and go through my 8 favorite Chip Theory games, I guess, my top 8 Chip Theory games, ranking them from the least to the highest. And we're going to be going through these. One of these is only available in prototype form, and I should note, I will not be distinguishing between different varieties of the same game. For example, 20 Strong has several versions and more versions coming. I'm just going to be counting it as a general umbrella category. Similarly with Too Many Bones, we have, well, Core Box, Unbreakable, and Undertow. So we got 3 main flavors of Too Many Bones. I'm ranking it as a general system. To that end, let's go ahead and start off with our number 8. Oh, wait, last asterisk before we dive into this. Chip Theory Games also has their game to pick a game kind of little table thingy-majiggy. I've never played that, and it's a game to pick a game. It's not necessarily a full game. I'm not counting that. Well, I guess define it how you like. I'm not counting in this video no matter what because I haven't played it, but in general, I don't really think of it as a game. I think I've played all of Chip Theory's games within their game category. And coming at number 8 is one of 3 games we do not have on the table over here, and that's Triplock. Now, I have played Triplock, and Triplock from them is, well, it's a little lock-picking game. It's their first endeavor into the small box genre before they came back with 20 Strong that has been much better received. Triplock landed with some, but not with others, and I'm in the others category over here. A Triplock is a game of trying to break a lock. You're trying to use some mechanisms, some little fiddly stuff over here to kind of figure out the puzzle of the game. It's kind of a more advanced version of their little lock-picking game from Too Many Bones, like significantly more advanced. It's a different game, but it's that kind of puzzle, but put into its own little game. I thought it was forgettable. I didn't like it. In fact, from all the games we have over here, it's the only one that I actively don't like. The rest are a question of which ones I like more, but Triplock was the one that was a miss for me. Although even saying I don't like it might be a stretch, I would just call it forgettable and unimpressive. It wasn't bad, it just didn't do a lot that I thought was intriguing, although again, it is a game that has landed with some, just I'm not in that category. Coming in at number 7 is another of the games that are not on this table, although that's not for lack of wanting it to, that's just because of where it is, which is Wroth. Now, by the way, 7 and 6 are going to be an interesting conversation that we do have to have. It's also the danger of putting opinions on the internet where they can so quickly be misconstrued for the quick bullet point that they provide, which we'll clarify. 7 and 6 are interesting. We'll get to them soon. But let's start with 7, and that's Wroth. Wroth isn't out yet, hence why it's not on the table. I might have a prototype somewhere, I don't know exactly where. Some prototypes get sent on to other people, some go into a back room where they eventually get destroyed one day, and others get sent back to the publisher. I don't remember which one Wroth is, and I didn't look before this video, so it might literally be in the back room over there. Anyways, Wroth is an area control game designed by Manny Tremblay, put out by Chip Theory Games, art by Manny Tremblay, but it's basically area control, and it does have a solo mode, which I never got around to playing, unfortunately, but I did play through the game competitively several times. It's area control. You have your faction, you have your unique faction abilities, and then you're trying to basically be a little bit of king of the hill, except there are several hills that you're trying to go for, and then trying to utilize your unique advantages of the various troops you have in order to do better at manipulating the board state than your opponents can. It's a very clever puzzle of the unique elements of your faction, and then how you can use that, as well as table talk and board presence, towards your advantage while dealing with an area control game that plays in generally 60 plus minutes, like maybe the 60 to 75 range. It is pretty quick for the amount of punchiness it gives you as you try to take advantage of your unique asymmetric abilities of the factions you're playing in. Combine that with bright, vibrant colors, accessible gameplay, and the only thing that's left to establish is how good is the solo mode, and do I enjoy that too. As well as the truth is, I should say there were minor complaints I had around the game that I do know were still being developed and tweaked. So there were some small factors that I was like, I don't like this element, and those were things they were actively working on because, again, usual asterisk prototype when I got to play and cover the game. I like Wroth. The biggest issue I have with Wroth, as far as the ranking on this list, is I like other chip theory games more. When I think of my favorite adventure-y games that give me tons of powers and abilities, chip theory games ranks at the top of that list. Some of their games are perfect for the kinds of things that I enjoy. Whereas when I think of area control puzzles, as much as I do enjoy Wroth, it is a good game. I liked my plays of it, and obviously am still intrigued as to the final version of it. At the end of the day, there are area control games that I enjoy more than I enjoyed Wroth, and so it does go a little bit lower on this list. Which does bring us to number 6, the last game that I do not have on the table, and the one that I do need to give an interesting clarification disclaimer with Wroth, and that's going to be Hoplomachus Victorum. Now, Hoplomachus Victorum is my number 6 as far as how much I like a chip theory game, although it does require some interesting explanation with Wroth, but we'll get to that soon. Let's first talk about Hoplomachus, and then compare and contrast that little bullet point I want to get to. See, Hoplomachus Victorum, and it's also going to have Hoplomachus regular, just Hoplomachus remastered, which I have not played, to be fair. I've only played Victorum the solo mode. I kind of still want to play remastered, but it's a question of where I'm choosing to give my time and attention amongst these gigantic adventure games that chip theory gives me. Now, so Hoplomachus Victorum gives you a solo adventure in which you're going through, well, across 40 days, or whatever you want to call it, you're going through this journey, and you're oh, it's 40 days in Delore, it's not 40 days, whatever it is, you're going on this sequence of adventures as you wander around the board, engage with various science, take on the eventual big bads, all of that stuff, as you try to power up your characters, your posse of characters, as you go through different kinds of encounters, from death matches to arena combats to challenges, all of that while trying to power up, level up, and take down the ultimate big bad at the end of the adventure. It is a incredibly enjoyable solo puzzle of trying to figure out how you're going to bag build and deal with all the things that the game throws at you. It's also not a game that's here anymore. I did choose to get rid of it. As much as I like it, I think there are many elements that I enjoy, but I think ultimately I prefer other games in Chip Theory's catalog. The most interesting thing about Hoplomachus Victorum at this point is the Hoplomachus Quicktorum, the mode that's coming out in the expansion, does give you a quicker way to go through the experience, which does take some of the grind out of the experience, because I do think Hoplomachus Victorum is excellent, but does have some grind to it. It's a game that I enjoyed very much, but the more I played it, the more I was dealing with repeated repetition. There's a lot of repetition in what you're doing compared and contrasted with their other games that has less of that. And so I do really like Hoplomachus Victorum. I like it more than Wroth, but at the end of the day, I got rid of Hoplomachus Victorum, and Wroth's fate is still to be decided. Which brings us to that asterisk of, well, I rank Hoplomachus Victorum higher, why do I prefer that to Wroth? And the answer is more that in the vein of what Hoplomachus Victorum is doing, I think other chip theory games we're going to talk about today are better at that, versus Wroth is very different. Now, Wroth's fate is still to be decided. It is fighting against a lot of area control games that I really value. I think the biggest thing it has going for it is that shorter hour playtime. I don't know if that'll be enough, so I don't know where Wroth is for me right now. Right now, I liked it, I enjoyed it, I think it's good, but it does have a little more chance of surviving compared to Hoplomachus Victorum, which its biggest weakness is that it's doing the same kind of mental puzzle that I get out of other chip theory games, and I prefer those other ones. So that's kind of the asterisk I want to touch upon. But Hoplomachus Victorum is excellent. I do recommend it. I have had a lot of fun with it. I think it's better in the Quicktorum mode. For me, ultimately, as much as I want to give it more time and attention to see if it's the one that lands for me, I think at this point, other chip theory games are where I'd rather put my time and attention. Which brings us to my number 5, Burncycle. And in general, by the way, I have like the smallest boxes I could on the table as opposed to the giant. If I was putting all the big box stuff I have from Chip Theory, this would be a lot of table space, and table weight for that matter. But Burncycle is excellent, and it does suffer from the same problem that Hoplomachus did, which is the eternal question of, will it stay forever, or will it fall to other Chip Theory games? The tricky part is I really like Burncycle when I play it. I don't like everything about it. Some elements are a little fiddly. I still find the network board to not be perfectly synchronized thematically with what you're doing on the main puzzle. But the main puzzle is you have these robots you're playing as, all with vastly asymmetric abilities. You have your command module robot that also has its own different way. Every robot has a command module side, so every robot gives you different ways to put it into the mix as far as the combination of things you have going for you. Then you're going on these heists that are wildly different as far as the rules and changes they bring to the gameplay. And you can play short, medium, or long adventures, and you can utilize all these robots with all their cool abilities to do so much fun stuff as you try to puzzle out how to get what you need done while not getting too much threatened by the stronger guards than they should be, because this is half stealth and half managing the chaos that you deal with in this world. I think Burncycle is tremendous. I do think some of other Chip 3 games are better. That's the only thing it has really going against it, is that there are some that are better. I wish there was a Burncycle 2.0, a new revised version of Burncycle, maybe 5 years into the future, 10 years into the future. Chip Theory revisits it and then takes the core that works so brilliantly well, like they did with Hoplomachus. They came back with that one, although I don't know if they'll do it with Burncycle. I don't know. We'll see. But I have no knowledge of them having any plans to do so. I just want that, because right now it's in a weird space where the things it does really well are done really well. The network board is an essential component to the game because it does things that you need to exist, but it doesn't feel like it syncs as well with the game. And so I wish there was a Burncycle 2.0. I wish there was a Burncycle that took all the things it does tremendously well and just makes a slightly better, more working together experience that feels more seamless than it currently does. As of right now, it is excellent. I love it. I currently refuse to get rid of it, even though I do find my table time goes more to some of the ones that are ranked higher on this list. Coming in at number 4, we have Cloudspire. Cloudspire just had their supposedly last campaign, and it's one that is harder to table. In general, Chip Theory games, much as I love them, the biggest problem their games have is they are they are much harder to table than your average game. Still easier to table than Mage Knight, which is why Mage Knight is finally gone and these are still here. But Cloudspire is an excellent game, both competitively and solo. Although I do prefer the solo. I don't think I've played the co-op yet. There's solo, co-op, and competitive. The co-op giving you a different set of scenarios to go through, so it's not just like solo versus co-op. It's an actual difference in terms of what you're doing with the scenarios you're playing through. But the general idea is it's a MOBA-style board game. You're going to have your heroes, you're going to have your minions, although these minions are not the mindless scrap you might have to deal with in other MOBAs. These minions bring teeth to the table. They bring actual abilities and things you're working towards, and it's up to you to try to combine the right stack of characters that you are sending towards your opponent's horde, your opponent's keep, trying to take them down. And you can do that competitively, playing against each other with the unique factions and abilities. You can deal with it solo, playing against the AI board, going through a particular adventure, dealing with the market across those rounds of play, and building towards perfection. Or you could do it cooperatively, and all of them are brilliant game experiences that I thoroughly recommend. Well, again, I haven't played co-op technically, but I assume it's going to be as enjoyable as solo. But they are all excellent game experiences that I really recommend, and I've had a ton of fun going through the combination of abilities. Overall, I prefer the gameplay of Cloudspire much more so than Burncycle. Burncycle has that kind of slightly not perfectly seem together seems like the wrong word there, the slightly not perfectly in sync systems, and Cloudspire is hard to table. There's a lot going on there. But when you do table either of these games, the experiences are so ridiculously enjoyable that, well, they're good. They're really good. Which brings us to number 3. Another really good is Elder Scrolls Betrayal of a Second Era. Elder Scrolls Betrayal of a Second Era is their take on the Too Many Bones system, but done differently enough that they are very much different. You'll see the same DNA in some elements, but they are definitely different experiences that I recommend in their own rights. But Elder Scrolls Betrayal of a Second Era, and obviously I rank the other one higher than this one, but there's still 2 games left, so who knows, except for the people who looked at the timestamps and or have watched enough of my videos. But Betrayal of a Second Era, Elder Scrolls Betrayal of a Second Era, takes the Too Many Bones system, and it has you building out these characters that are going to become wildly asymmetric as you play. You are going through an adventure that takes place across 3 days, which are primarily 2 big kind of sprawling overland adventures, and then the boss fight that you are dealing with. But along the way, you are building up your characters. You're dealing with the unique aspects of the land that you are in. You are trying to build your character from tons of attributes and classes and lines and the initial faction that you have, your race, all these things, bringing you wide degrees of asymmetry to the experience that you are going to develop as you go through it. You can build your character however you want, whether you lean towards magic, towards stealth, towards bow and arrow, towards melee, two-handed, armor. There's so many different stat lines you can build towards and so many different abilities as you try to craft the ultimate dice pool, the ultimate combination of characters, and try to take down the various baddies along the way. There is lots of general similarities with Too Many Bones, the nature of the lockpicking, the nature of the way you build your characters, the chips, although that's present in all of these, the baddie stacks and the baddie queues and the sequence of the day counters. There's a lot of general similarities, but they are also very, very different in terms of the feeling you're going to get, in terms of the way you build your characters, in terms of the ways the adventures are structured, the delves you're going to have, the overland battles, the delves, the general adventures, the various villages and towns you're going to go to, and the unique aspects of how each of those are structured. There is so much lore and world building and content baked into Elder Scrolls Betrayal of the Second Era. It is such a delight when you dive into it, although, like Cloudspire, it is not the easiest game to dive into. It can be an adventure in its own right to set up and play through these games. It will take time, effort, and a whole lot of rulebook reading, but the eventual puzzle that you get out of it, the eventual actual gameplay you get, is some of the best gameplay you can get your hands on in the games that are being put out these days. Which brings us to number 2. And number 2 is tricky, because I prefer the gameplay of the past 3 games to the gameplay of number 2, but number 2 I can and do table more frequently because of the small box, which does have me ranking it higher, and that is 20 Strong. 20 Strong was Chip Theory's attempt to dive back into the small boxes. Sure, we put out these massive, incredible game experiences that are loved by many, but not necessarily the most accessible, both in terms of rules overhead and in terms of price point and in terms of physical weight sometimes, but 20 Strong is the answer to that. 20 Strong gives you a solo puzzle where you're going to have 20 strong warriors, 20 dice, and you're going to go through a set of adventures depending on which module you're playing with. From the initial 3 modules, the Solar Sentinels, the Hoplomachus, and the Too Many Bones, then they have the Tanglewoods. They have a set of 3 modules for Tanglewoods. They announced their line of games that they're doing, the Nemesis one, not Nemesis, was it Nemesis? I think it was Nemesis, 20 Strong Nemesis if I'm not mistaken. Their collaboration with Awakened Realms has many people excited for that, and in general, this gives you that solo puzzle. This gives you that, okay, great, I'm going to try to roll my dice, grow my characters, utilize abilities, and power through what the game is throwing at me, but it does so with a rule sheet that is a double-sided rule sheet that gives you so much less rules overhead than any other Chip Theory game. It comes at a price point that is much more accessible than any other Chip Theory game. It comes at a table presence and game time and rules accessibility that is much more accessible than any other Chip Theory game, and that results in this getting played far more than some of these other games. I like other games more than this, even the one that's ranked above this, which again shouldn't be a shocker at this point. I like more than this, but this gets tabled more than those because it's easy to do so. If you want to play a quick little puzzle that's going to give you all that same brain burneriness that you get out of a Chip Theory game, granted a little bit less so, you have to have compromise if you're going to have a smaller box experience, but it does so tremendously well, and I definitely recommend if you want that adventure-y mode, but with a much more accessible way to dive into it, 20 Strong gives you that. Which brings me to my number 1, one that is still to be unseated. It consistently gives me the best overall Chip Theory games experience, and that is Too Many Bones. Too Many Bones does a lot of things similarly with the Elder Scrolls, and there's things I like better about Elder Scrolls, but as a whole package, Too Many Bones to me is my first Chip Theory games love and also my greatest one. You see, this one gives you such vast degrees of character asymmetry as you build your characters and go on these adventures that is to me why I constantly love this system. Because there are some general similarities in the adventuriness that you have in all of these. The way all these games over here, the Elder Scrolls, Burncycle, the Cloudspire, Too Many Bones, Hoplomachus, all of these are giving you ways to build and develop your team, to get more abilities, to use those abilities in conjunction as you go on an adventure, as you face overwhelming odds, and as you figure out how to puzzle it all together so that you can power through it. And they all do so tremendously well. But Too Many Bones specifically has the best and widest character variety. If you're looking for characters that have their own unique puzzle to learn, learning a character in Too Many Bones is more complex than learning the entire 20 Strong, which is both a good thing and a bad thing. It's a bad thing in the sense that that's some of the reason why 20 Strong will get tabled more frequently. It's a good thing because the satisfaction of learning a new character, of trying to figure out the best way to build that character as you go through multiple games, trying to figure out the nuances of how do you use that musical instrument, how do you build and craft little bombs, what little pets or dangers do you want to throw at your opponents. There's so much variety as far as eating your opponents, to shocking your opponents, to being a martial artist. There's so much vast asymmetry in the character depth that Too Many Bones provides that is forever one of my favorite games in the adventure category, giving you a ton of fun as you learn and master your own abilities, a ton of variety as you go through a wide variety of scenarios to go through, and then a ton of baddies as you choose a boss to tackle, put together their little baddie combinations, and then face off whatever horrors you need to deal with in any of the 3 core sets they have, with any of the characters that they have, all giving you a truly delightful experience in that little world building, the large world building that they have going on in Too Many Bones. And so that is my favorite Chip Theory Games game. In any case, and until next time, I am Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. Please let me know in the comments down below both what your favorite Chip Theory Games game is, as well as what other publishers you'd like to see me do this ranking list with, because I'll be happy to oblige in this infrequent, but yet somewhat consistent video series. As always, hope you enjoyed this video, and until next time, I hope you have a good one.